the G Spot Podcast. We appreciate y'all for checking in. If you haven't already, make sure you follow the G Spot Podcast on all social media platforms, YouTube, Twitter, all that good jazz. Make sure you also download the RWR Live 365 app where you can listen to this show and many other good shows and very good music all day long. I have a new guest in the building with me today, man. Happy to finally be able to sit with you. I got Quintarries Upshaw in the building today. We're going to be talking about his new book, The Journal of Broken Folk. Let me tell you something. Every time I read the title of the book, and make sure y'all, every time I read the title of the book, I don't know why I want to put The Journal of Broken Black Folk in the front. I don't know why. I don't know why. And I guess it's from some of the stuff that I have read when I looked at the chapters of the book. And like I said before, it kind of gives you that old school vibe of like Norzil Hurston, of different stories of different experiences throughout the South or whatever. So, man, first again, thank you for coming. Again.
Absolutely, it's been a long time coming, right?
Yeah. Hey, so your book. First of all, what motivated you
to write this thing right here? Well, honestly, I've always been a writer. I've been writing since I was in elementary school, and I had just left a job. We're not going to say who, but I had just left a job, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to write this. I think it's time, because I kept putting it off for years and years and years. Started on this thing with the concept in 2017, and I'm like, I don't want to do it. And then something said, well, you got free time now. Do it. So I did it.
Yeah.
6 months.
6 months. You know, it's crazy. A lot of times, and this is myself included, God really puts something on your heart. You have so much other stuff going on, and then you be so focused on what could go wrong instead of what could go right. And it's funny when I talk to people who come up with these ideas, and when you see the idea into fruition, and they tell you how long they were contemplating, because even with me with this show, it took me a couple years to finally be like, all right, I'm just gonna go ahead and do it, Right. So it's pretty cool to have, hear those stories and let you know, like, I'm not the only one who was going through that experience.
Absolutely.
What was
humans?
Yeah. What was it what was most exciting for you when creating this?
That's a tough one. Now, for the people that don't know, I actually like horror. Let me move this back.
That's me.
I like horror, so I like the scary stuff. We fear the unknown, and things that are in the horror genre is stuff that we don't know about.
Right.
It usually deals with the supernatural. We don't know. I mean, we're not dead.
Yeah.
So we don't know what that feels like, but that's normal. That's what I gravitate towards. But the healer in me felt like, a few things needed to be exposed. So go for it. That's exactly what I did. And that's what my mind told me. Go for it.
Oh, man. So I know growing up, you come from a family with different backgrounds.
Oh, yes.
So for you, how was your upbringing? Did that motivate you when it came to writing your stories?
Yeah. Some things are in there, some things aren't, but absolutely. I think that my upbringing, I was able to base and gauge some of the characters off of that. I had fun with it. Now, for the listeners, I know it sounds so exciting. You guys, it's the Journal of Broken Folk. So this comes with trauma. So I was able to just create scenarios around some things. Now, a few stories are real. And some are just what my mind did. My mind took it and ran with it. So I wrote it down.
Yeah. So have you ever saw Queen Sugar?
A little bit.
All right. Yeah. And they had a sister on there who wrote a book, and the family was like tripping out about her releasing the book because some of the things. So did you have to go through that? Did you have to like let some of your family know, like, look, now this book got XYZ in it, so it wouldn't be any problems?
Let me tell you something. So I'm going to open this up. This book is a contemplation of short stories. The stories are fictitious in nature and have some historical reference. The information is used in a fictitious manner. The stories are based on the author's imagination, and any stories that show similarities to an individual, living, Dead events or locals are entirely coincidental.
Okay. Oh, okay.
We're gonna go with
I
that.
see how you did that. I see how you did
See, you got to
that.
protect yourself. I'm gonna tell
Yeah,
myself.
I
It's
see.
getting
I
hot.
see how that goes. There, I see
He's
how. I
turning up the
definitely.
heat, y'all.
Yeah, I know.
Uh-oh.
I mean, because it's a lot. Having to really sit down and put your ideas down, and for you to do it within 6 months.
Mhm.
You know, I I just couldn't imagine myself doing it. I know it will probably at least take me a couple years. I mean, sometimes when you come across authors who have collections,
Mhm.
um, and books like this, it takes a very long time, and
Mm.
sometimes with certain people, we don't even hear about it until after they're long gone.
Oh,
Then all of a
right,
sudden,
right,
you got all these books coming out,
right.
or a book with nothing but stories that they never released. Um, as an author, okay, because this is your first book,
This is my first published
your
book.
first published book, yeah.
Mhm.
As an author, what motivates you? What keeps that I guess that imagination wheel
Mhm.
turning?
Oh, this is a good question. Well, I'm a teacher. Um, and one of the things that I notice with the kids of this generation, they don't have they don't have an imagination.
Mm-mm.
Everything is cut and dry. It's
Mhm,
cutthroat. And I'm like, turn the technology off.
mhm,
Use your brain to help write this paper.
mhm,
Um, so I just think, I think my parents and my grandmother, all those country old black folk
mhm,
that sit around and just the country folk in general that would sit around and come to the schools and tell you stories.
mhm,
That was where I got into storytelling. And it went from storytelling to me writing them.
mhm,
My classmates know, the ones that know, they know that I write.
mhm,
But those stories were horror
mhm,
and I didn't release them
mhm,
because people would be afraid.
mhm.
They call me a witch. Where's
Oh,
the
I've heard
camera?
that before. They put it on me too. It's all right.
And I get called a witch. So, but yeah, my upbringing, it played a pivotal point in me writing because everybody's a storyteller. You know what happens when all the grown folk get around the table
Yeah,
and then you say, oh, kids in there, get out of grown folks' mouth, get out of
yeah,
grown folks' business.
yeah,
I was definitely in the other room listening
yeah,
and being in grown folks' business because I
yeah.
wanted to know why Mr. Burdine was messing around with Miss O'Neill and everything that happened, and that really ain't his grandchild. And
Yeah,
I wanted to know.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so that's what that kind of led towards it. So
It's funny when you talk about the imagination of children, and I mean that even something that I even noticed within myself with dealing with people who have creative minds. It lets you know how much in the box that you really are.
mhm.
Um, and I was actually reading a story about that probably about a year or so ago about them doing a study on children and how they use their imagination, and especially I think from being from the South, that is hard for a lot of us because
Mhm.
we have been glued to tradition for
Yeah.
so long, and to where we feel like this is what's right because my grandma did it, my great
Mhm.
grandma did it, and so it kind of leaves you. I see it when I go to bigger cities. It is very motivating. I have a friend who's an artist, and he loves going to bigger cities just to find that motivation, just to see
Mhm.
how creative different people are. And I think that's something that we definitely need in it. We have to definitely push with our youth,
Yeah.
especially with Black youth, because even when it comes
Yes.
to their
So scared.
skills, a lot of times when it comes to Black youth, we were pushed to think that either you got to go in the military, you have to go to the service, yeah, with the military, or you have to be a rapper, or you have to just go to school and work for somebody else. And there's so many other things that you could really do for yourself out
Right.
here, and it could
Absolutely.
be lucrative for you, you
Mhm.
know. And I try to push that a lot with my nephews, let them know like there's no one way. You don't have to just be a rapper, you don't have to just play sports, you don't have to, it's certain things that you just don't have to do that is ideal for a lot of Black people in the South because that's their meal ticket out.
Yeah.
And it's totally I definitely get it,
Mhm.
but it's like you said, it's about using your imagination,
Right.
um conjuring the things and bringing it to fruition, the things that you already feel, because I'm a big believer that whatever God puts on your mind, you already have the tools to make it
Mhm.
happen. So it's pretty cool that you pointed that out. um and the storytelling, I grew up with my great grandmother who was from Birmingham, Alabama, and I used to love to go over there to hear her stories. And what's crazy is even when it comes to history, uh, like for instance, the Rosa Parks store. I did not know at the time. I didn't know growing up that Rosa Parks wasn't the first woman to do that. And my great grandma was like, no, like, no, that she wasn't the first one. They don't teach y'all real history. She started breaking out stories to me that I didn't believe at first because I never heard this in school. And then when I got older, started doing my own research, and I was like, oh, grandma was right. And I remember sitting on the porch down in the 10-yard all the time. I used to love to hear my grandma's stories. Even to this day, I always repeat her stories. And I think that's important. A lot of kids don't, maybe the generation of grandparents we had are now leaving.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a different era.
Yeah, you got a different type of grandparent now. Fortunately, my mom, she's one of the last of a dying breed, and my aunts, but you do have certain grandparents who they don't believe in babysitting. You know what I'm saying? You got certain breed cases of grandparents when you go to the juke joint, they in the juke joint too. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's kind of sad to think that a lot of people won't be able to get that experience,
Right.
ask those questions on what it was like for you growing up, and a lot of people don't like to talk about it though.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you made this story to kind of bring out certain stories that people just probably not gonna want to talk about.
Oh yeah.
I definitely want to know what these horror stories about. I am a horror.
Oh yeah. I put 2 in there. That technically one falls under psych. Well, 3. 2 of them fall under psychotic horror, and the other one is your kind of traditional supernatural horror. And that one has nothing to do with the theme of the book. I just wanted to throw it in there.
Yeah.
Because that's just who I am as a person. So you always got to look out for those Easter eggs with me.
Right.
When it comes down to the storytelling, dealing with my grandparents. Now, may she rest in peace. Lord knows I love her just a man. She had,
that's a Southern thing with that may at the end.
She had a way of, how can I put this? How can I put this without my cousins and my aunts and my mom trying to beat me up? My grandma had a way of saying something so serious, but it was absolutely hilarious. And she would be dead serious.
Yeah.
I remember one time she cussed out a police officer. He was just there to do his job. And she was just talking to him just kindly and nice. And then she just started cussing him out. It was hilarious. And he was like, okay, Miss Jessamine, God, I don't got time for this. Okay. I won't come back to your house. And we ain't doing no welfare checks. We had the wrong house, all right? And she lit him up. It was hilarious. And those were moments that I used as far as my humor to kind of put that in there. I keep bumping this.
That's fine.
So
yeah, I love it. So what's your favorite chapter? First of all, how many chapters does your book have?
Are y'all ready? 50
chapters. And before y'all think, I know a lot of y'all gonna probably be like, oh, because I know something. I ain't reading it. Listen, they are not long drawn out chapters. I promise you. Okay. Please give it a chance. And two, I definitely know that this book is one of those books that helps spark your imagination.
Yes.
Okay. And it has a lot of relevancy to a lot of our lives, like I said, especially. And I mean, even from being up north, I'm not going to just say it's a Southern thing. I just know I like Southern storytelling. So I can compare it to that because I've grew up around it. So what's your favorite chapter in the book?
Oh, that's a tough one. I tell you what, a story that I enjoyed writing, I don't even have to open it, was The Wings of a Monarch Butterfly. And it's centered around a Hispanic family, and this is where the teacher in me comes in because, geography, we think about history. Let's think about the migration of the monarch butterfly. They come from the north, and generally they migrate towards Mexico or Central America. So that's where they migrate towards. So keep that nugget in your mind. I teach a very broad, how can I put this? A very broad spectrum of kids. I have, African American, Asian. I have a few Hispanic students, and there's this Hispanic student. The first day of class, she comes in the room. I don't know this child from a can of paint, and she said, "Oh, you're Mr. Upshaw? I'm just letting you know I'm here and I can fight."
What? Thanks for the introduction, Selena.
Go sit you. That's what I wanted to say. What? But when I didn't give her what she was looking for, she was like, "Okay, I'm gonna sit down."
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, pencil, paper, now.
Yeah.
That's my go-to.
Mhm.
And her spunkiness, her attitude, I'm like, I want to take that and I want to put it into something.
Mm.
I'm like, let me put that into a character. So that's exactly what
Oh
I did.
wow.
I took her spunkiness, her attitude, her rebel. I took the essence of her
Mhm.
and I put it into a character. Now we have to be careful when people do that. People take the essence of you and they apply it to other things. That's where they pick up on your mannerisms, how you talk. They basically mimic you.
Mm.
This was not to mimic her. This was to build a character centered around girls with the likeness of her,
Mhm.
not just her, but with the likeness of her.
Right.
So that's my teaching lesson for today.
Mm.
So what happens is in this story, it starts off in a church,
Mm.
and well, we know sex trafficking is real. We know human trafficking is real.
Mhm.
And let's just say that story takes you on a ride.
Yeah.
And it's one hell of a story.
Mhm.
And I'm like, what is wrong with me? Do I need a therapist? Do I need a therapist right now? What is wrong with me?
Oh.
But let's just say I do that character justice.
Mm.
And she was based off the likeness of my Hispanic female students that I teach. I keep knocking into
That's all right.
this.
That's all right. That's all right. That's all right. That's we. I think when it comes to a lot of Hispanic women, people will understand that because even in movies, we always see the Hispanic woman that has the biggest attitude when she
Mhm.
comes into the room,
Mhm.
and it's just something that's a part of their community. And we get it. We get it with a lot of our women as well. You know what
Our
I'm saying?
sisters are laying on you, but I love
Yeah.
it. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Please,
Yeah. I mean,
please be yourself.
when I think about it, growing up, even in school, like my favorite teachers were the teachers who act like they were your mom. You know what I'm saying?
I had a few of those, and I still talk to them today.
Yeah.
Miss love her to death. One of my first school moms. And I'm just calling out names now: Amanda Ford, Kathy Lightfoot, Lydia Sexton, Sheila Sanders. I mean, love them. They're on my Facebook now. I love them. And Miss Baxter Lee would get me together really quickly. Mr. Upshaw, is there a reason why you're talking and no one else is? And I'm like,
yeah,
that was me.
Yeah. I mean, we appreciate it, and I think and that's why it's pretty cool that you say you teach as well, because we need more Black teachers, and we need more Black teachers because we need more people in the school that understand our youth.
Yes.
I had a friend of mine who was working in the school a couple of years ago, and he quit. He was like, I can't do it. He was like, I see the treatment of the students, and I'm now at the point where every time I go to work, it stresses me out because I know it's only so much that I can do on my end for these students. And a lot of people with instructors with different I would say a lot of instructors with different
ethnic backgrounds.
We'll say ethnic backgrounds. Okay. A lot of teachers with different ethnic backgrounds, they don't understand different cultures. And I'm pretty sure that's all of us. You know what I'm saying? So we wouldn't know how to deal. But I know for a lot of times when it comes to Black people, we always try to turn into a parent first.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that everybody does it like that. For some people, I think it's just a job. And then it becomes a parent moment when it's somebody that looks like you. You know, so for a lot of us, like I said, I know we come into a space and that's where we are. If I had a child, I'm going to talk to you the same way I talk to mine. You know, and like I said, those are your most memorable teachers growing up. I mean, this period, I mean, that's even just walking down the street to the store. If you have a couple doors down, that old lady that always sat on the porch, you make sure you spoke to her every time you walk by. You know what I'm saying? And if she caught you doing something, because that's how I grew up in the neighborhoods where the sisters around the corner, if we was walking down the street doing something, they had already, before we got to the house, they already called my grandma, let her know what was going on. If they didn't check us, you know. So we definitely need that. We need that structure back, and we definitely need that structure in the schools. Because a lot of times I know they blame it on behavior. And but the thing is, people don't try to get to the root of the behavior.
Yes.
A lot of kids can't act. A lot of kids don't act out until they get to school. You know, but if you sit down and really ask, then you find out the financial situations, the living situation with a lot of children. Sometimes all they need is for somebody to really just talk to them.
Yes. And you know what? I'm gonna take it there. I'm gonna take it a step further with you. Oftentimes, some parents send their kids to school in this manner. Okay, the alarm clock goes off at around 6:45. Now, the parent just got off work
Mm-hmm.
at 5 o'clock. So they're home, they're tired, they're staying up so they can take the child to school. Parent dozes off, child runs a little behind, goes to wake the parent, parent cusses them out, fusses
Mm-hmm.
at them. Strike number one. So we'll give that about 3 points. All right. So that's 3 points. What we're trying not to get to is a level 10. So we're at a level 3 right now. They just got cussed out. Okay, well, guess what? They forgot that they had a field trip, a permission slip needs to be signed, they need money, they need all of that. Because as a child, we've done it before.
Right.
We'll wait
Wait
till the
last
day
minute.
up.
Yeah.
Sign it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, so they're mad about that. Parent just fussed at them again. So now let's move that up to a level 5. So they're at a level 5. Okay. They're rushing out of the house. They missed the bus. Parent has to drop them off. Parent is tired, nagging the entire way. They're cussing them out again. So that's about a 7. All right. So now they're at a level 7. We know that. They get ready to get out of the car and they forgot either their jacket, their homework, their Chromebook. Now they're at a level 8. All right. So they walk into the cafeteria for breakfast. Come to find out that they're too late for breakfast, so they have to grab it and go. Now they're at a level 9. They walk in the classroom and the teacher says, "Where's your homework?" Boom!
Hmm.
We just got all of that. Everything that was building up from that
Mhm.
child, we just got hit with it,
Mm-hmm.
torn to pieces.
Mhm.
It's happened to me quite a few times, and I'm a big guy. So when they come at me, they normally break down
Mhm.
and fall in my arms. I'm like, oh God, boy, you bigger than me. Get
Yeah. Now
off
I'm a
me.
therapist. Yeah.
Get off me,
Yeah.
crying on my shoulder, pulling my hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, you 6'5"
Uh-huh.
in 7th grade. Sit down.
They need it. Sometimes they need it.
And you have to give them grace.
Yeah.
And I do it with all kids.
Mm-hmm.
I do it with all of them. It's been to the point, and this is no school here, but I pulled a gun off a child before. I pulled guns, I pulled razors, I pulled mace, I pulled knives off of children. Because that's how fed up they are.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who were they going after? I don't know. I've gotten cussed out so bad by a student that speaks to me that he spoke to me every single morning. He would come in my classroom, doesn't even take me. Come in my classroom, fuss at the kids, or in his playful manner, see if I had any snacks.
Mm.
And he cussed me out one morning.
Mm.
It was bad. I'm like, now listen.
Yeah.
You don't know me now.
I'm just a teacher from this time to this time.
You don't know me now. So I called him back. Who are you talking to?
Mm.
Man, get out of my. And then all the tears came out.
Mm.
And when he fell down, I seen the gun. I said, who is that for? Let me see it. Who is it for? No, I got to get rid of them. They keep talking about me. Who? Let's talk about it. Kids, get out of the room.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about it now. I done pressed the button for help, but I needed to have that moment with him. So our kids go through that.
Yeah.
They only know one way. These kids aren't allowed to express themselves.
Mm-mm.
Something that I hate is when the spirit of a child is destroyed. When you destroy the spirit, you destroy the imagination.
Mm-hmm.
That takes away your authors. That takes away your poets. That takes away your teachers. That takes away all of those dreams that they had. You take them away when you break the spirit of a child.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God for my parents not breaking mine.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God for that, because you can't replace that. Once the spirit of a child is broken, then you grow up and you be an angry adult. You become bitter at everything. Those people that we see sitting on their front porch yelling or causing drama and chaos, they weren't allowed that outlet.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's my spill on it. Before I go into therapist mode.
No, it's different. And I think it goes with the book, the Journal of Broken Folk. A lot of times we deal with broken people and we don't grant them enough grace.
Right.
We don't understand their story. And sometimes they're not even at a point in life where they even understand why they are the way that they are. So you have to have these conversations. And one thing I've learned in the past couple of years is not to take everything personal when somebody comes at me a certain type of way, because sometimes it's not about you. It's about them, and you just happen to get the bad end of the stick, and you just sit down and you talk to somebody and like, hey, why you felt the need to talk to me like that? And you understand that it had nothing at all to do with you. You just happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. And sometimes it might was at the right place at the right time. Because like you said with the young man, like he had a gun on him. Him being able to release his emotions in front of you, he would have held that. And ain't no telling what would have happened. It would have been another one for the news, So it's definitely very important that we do have a lot of broken children because we come from a lot of homes with broken parents, and the parents were not allowed to speak. You know how you know how it is. What happened in this house, stay in this house, and I tell people all the time. When it comes to my nephews, I try not to ever push that narrative of don't you tell, stop snitching, because I grew up in that era. And because
That's
I want them to
80s
always,
and 90s right there.
I want them to always feel comfortable enough to come talk to me about no matter what, and if somebody's doing something to you that's just out of pocket or you feel uncomfortable, like you could say that to me. I'm not going to take it there with you.
Right.
So we definitely have to start creating that with children. And, we saw a couple years ago, and that post was floating around about depression, and it's like I told my mom I had depression. She said, "Press them damn dishes." Yeah, But I mean, people thought it was funny, but it was more funny because majority of us could resonate with that.
Yes.
Like we come from those households to where, oh, you ain't got no nerves. You know what I'm saying? So,
I have plenty of them.
Yeah,
I was a smart mouth kid. My mom will tell you that now.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a mouthpiece.
You always had to come back.
Oh yeah, I remember. And if my siblings were here right now, they tell you the story. I told my mom, I said, "Mom, it's about to rain." Now we had a dryer. She didn't want me. No, she wanted me to hang the clothes outside. She said, because my utility bill going through the roof. I'm like, hey, sure, whatever you say. That's what because I've always been very direct. My parents were very direct with me. They took a different approach with my siblings because they're like, okay, this is a monster right now. This is what we created. And she said, hang the clothes out, right, mother, now. I'm like, okay, Mom, I'm telling you it's about to rain, but hey, whatever you say. So you can smell the rain. You can smell when it's coming. And she walked around, she was like, it smells like it's about to rain. I didn't care.
Yeah.
I took the basket of clothes, just like she said. Yeah. I was walking outside and I waited because I felt the little gust of wind. The trees were swaying, doing their little thing. And then I felt the raindrops. I'm like, perfect. I'm so dramatic. And so it started raining. So once the rain came through, then the loud clap of thunder, boom. So I turn around and I look over my shoulder, back in the window at the house. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get her. Yeah. So what she would do whenever it would storm, we would have to turn everything off.
Right. Yeah.
Turn everything off.
The Lord's doing his work.
The devil being his wife.
Yeah.
Please. So we would let the windows up, and I heard her. She was just plain and clear. She was like, well, what Quintarries said? He outside hanging out clothes, like you said. So she walked to the window. I made sure I just knew when her presence was around. So I was squeezing out the spare pants. I was like, woo, this is going to dry really well. Yeah. And she yelled time to get a big dumb stupid ass. And so when I walked by, I said, I hung out the clothes like you said, mother. I hit him in the back of the head. Go lay down. Fine. Yeah. That's what I wanted to do anyway.
Yeah, right?
It's raining.
Oh, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, you see, but do you see how that turned into a whole story? How vivid and that's the type of storytelling that I grew up around. And that's what I put in the book. So but back to what you said about those parents saying to press those dishes, I take mental health very seriously. Yeah. There's some stories in here that are dealing with mental health. One that has affected me, and I'll be honest, it's two of them, three actually, if we keep it real, grief. Because I understood that we have to live, that we live. I never understood death. Never understood it. And it's a story in here called My Weekend with Marissa, which is about my cousin. I'll give y'all a little bit of background with that. When we grew up, we weren't close. Now, I'm one of the oldest boys of the grandkids. It's about 30 of us. Oh, wow. So I had no room for mistakes and errors. Now, my cousin is my great aunt's granddaughter. So That makes her like my second cousin. And she was born in 88. I was born in 91. Can't believe I just told people that. I normally say I was born in 95 and they fall for it. But when we grew up, we weren't close.
Yeah.
And as we got older, I moved away. I moved to Texas, and she sent me a message. She said, "Hey cousin, call me." I'm like, "Okay, what you want?" Because we weren't close like that.
Yeah.
And she said, "Hey, I'm getting married." I'm like, "Okay, congrats. What you want me to do?" Again, we weren't close. I'm like, "Okay, well, I'll be there to support. I'm moving back anyway." I was living in Port Arthur, Texas at the time. Like, I'm moving back anyway, so we'll see. We'll make something shake. She said, "Okay, because I'm gonna need you." I'm like, "Okay, that's fine." I moved back, and the relationship. Have you ever seen kerosene or gasoline light on fire?
Mm-hmm.
It was boom. It was explosive. I'm like, "No, wait a minute. All these years, and we could have been Bunny and Clyde.
Yeah.
Love her to death." And as time progressed, we got closer and closer, like brother and sister. Like, she would come over to her grandma's house because I was there. Um, and she just fussed me, "Hey, come on, let's go. We gotta go. Where are we going?" And half of the time it's usually nowhere,
Yeah.
but riding around and on the phone, talking crap, going to her mom's house, sitting on the porch. Like, that was a relationship. So the wedding came, everything was good. She was like, "Okay," her and her husband was like, "Hey, we got to invite you to the honeymoon. You got to come on the honeymoon." Why am I going to your honeymoon?
Right.
I'm not going.
Yeah.
Simple. I'm not going. Everything was, I mean, it was euphoric. It was a euphoric relationship. And the next thing you know, I had 112 missed calls. I had over 200 messages, and my Facebook notifications were ridiculous. They passed in a car crash.
Both of them.
Yes, together.
Wow.
And I was supposed to be in the car with them.
Wow.
I couldn't make it up. I was working at Blackwater Correctional Facility up in Milton. I couldn't make it up because I had work. They said, "Okay, well, we're gonna go to Atlanta first, and then we're gonna kind of hang out there. Then we're gonna fly out of Atlanta to Hawaii." I'm like, it's gonna be like 10, 12 stops, but okay, whatever. But I just couldn't make it. It was storming so bad. I couldn't make it. I couldn't see the road. So I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'll stick around here. They're gonna be mad at me. It'll be all right. And plus, they can get the money back from my tickets and stuff like that. Man, that was a dark time of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I recently came out of that.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't eat. I wouldn't talk. And what's so crazy is that, tell you how jobs don't care. They knew that she was just like my sister.
Mm-hmm.
Pictures together, videos together. Some of them even talked to her on the phone on FaceTime with me.
Mm-hmm.
I would come to work the next day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. They don't care.
You want me to come to? Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So so I dealt with that wave of grief and depression for a long time. It took years for that to lift. I've lost people before, but when the connection is that personal, that close,
It takes time.
and it's definitely a process. And I would say, I mean, even now, even still, I'll still tear up.
Yeah.
When I went home here recently, I got lost. I got tooth pulled. That's what, y'all, if y'all wondering what took this interview so long, I had to get a tooth pulled. I felt like that he took out 3 teeth. It was just one that's just so big. I didn't realize I'm that big. I'm only 6'3". All right.
Only.
Just 6'3". I would say I'm 175 pounds, but we know that's a lie. So it was in Union Springs, Alabama, country town. I love the country. I love the country. So I'm going through these county roads, and it's looping me off. I'm like, the GPS ain't working. Well, I know if I see something that says Pike County, I'll be all right. And I took the road, and it dumped me off right beside the graveyard
Where they were.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
I'm like, oh my God.
mm,
I got out before I can even make it to where they're buried. Broke down.
mhm.
It was. I'm like, and you know, one of those cries where it's like nothing can console you.
Yeah.
It was one of those.
Mhm,
It was like you jumping up and down, crying like
mhm.
you're bent. It was one of those. And I'm gonna keep it real with you. I needed that.
Yeah. Oh man,
I needed that.
it's funny you say
I
that.
needed that.
And like I said, this all goes even with the title of the
There it
book. You
is.
know, grief is
Mm-hmm.
something that, because a lot of us,
Mm-hmm.
and I think, and I'm gonna say it like this, I feel like religion plays a very important
Mm-hmm.
part in that. We don't understand death. We don't know how to
Right.
trust it. Um, and it has become a very scary thing, because I think even when you're in the church, certain remarks like, "Oh well, it's good to be on this side," or "It's good to be above dirt," you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so even when they preach about the positivity of transitioning, you always throw in a remark that makes me question it. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we have a very hard time as I'm like I'm a delayed griever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so I mean I felt like that when my great grandmother passed, that was like a second parent to me. And I didn't really get the proper time to grieve, because even the day that she passed, we all went to the house. I made sure she was out the house. And even then I went straight back to work. As soon as they took her out, I went straight back to work. And everyone was like, "How can you?" And I'm just like, I gotta keep moving.
Mm-hmm.
But one day, and I've realized now, it is it, and it's for the people out there who feel like you can run from it. But one day it's gonna hit you. And it might be and crazy, sometimes it might be at somebody else's funeral. You know what I'm saying? But I'll never forget, I was checking a few months, probably about a year, because we're going up on 2 years this year. After my grandmother passed, we were waiting for the headstone to come, and I just happened to ride out there. And I was looking and I was like, dang, this look a little familiar. I said, wait, well, it's looking a little different. So I backed up, and I could see that my family didn't know that they put the headstone out there, because they were still in the grieving process. So they didn't want to go out there. And man, I did the same thing. Like, you would have thought that I was walking into the funeral all
Mhm.
over again. But the way that I was able to
Ooh.
grieve there, I wasn't able to grieve with my family, because it was like, well, I come from that side of the family. It's not many men around. So all the men have to be the strong one, you know. So especially how close me and my grandmother was, everybody was looking for me for that type of support, you know. So I had the chance to grieve, and I was like, man, it's been almost a year, and I have not been able to get this out in almost a year of her being. But when I saw her
Right.
headstone, it was just confirmation for me. And I feel like we have to grief affects you in many ways, and it can
Yes.
cause clinical depression. And
Mhm.
I'm seeing it with a family member right now. Like I said, my grandmother has been gone for almost 2 years, and there are certain people in my family who are still really messed up about that.
Yes.
And they'll say, "Well, I'm not depressed," but then you see everything that's going on around them and say, "Well, I get up and go to work every day." That does not mean you're
You're
not
not
depressed.
depressed.
I'm like, if I'm seeing you, and every time I'm seeing you, like you just finished crying, or it look like you just stressed out, or
You've been
I'm
drinking,
noticing you're not
you've
even
been
cleaning up
smoking,
like you used to.
eating. You're in the darkness.
Yeah.
You know, we do those
You don't want
things.
to go nowhere.
Mhm.
You want to be social with people. You know, if anybody even say funeral in front of you, you just know you're
Mhm.
not going. One thing one thing I learned is, especially now doing the type of work that I do with working with the dead, we have to celebrate the fact that a person lived,
Yes.
and don't dwell on the fact that they died.
Right.
We know that coming to this world, that we are eventually going to have to cross that same bridge.
Mhm.
Okay. So it's no point of necessarily fearing it. Me personally, I'm a believer that I will get to see my people on the other side, you know?
Yes.
Um, so I use that as, motivation for me, but I do feel like a lot of people, they need that grief counseling. A lot of people told grief for years. I never forget a friend of mine going to a friend of his funeral. His dad had passed like 10 years prior. But when he went to that funeral, it messed him up, because whole 10 years, he didn't get to really grieve for his dad like he wanted to, until he got to somebody's funeral he barely knew.
Triggered it.
Yeah. And then too, it affects your behavior. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Sometimes you wonder why you on edge with a lot of people. and you just have to give yourself. And grief comes in many forms. It's not just even about losing somebody. It could be losing a part of yourself.
Yes.
Losing something that was very close to you. It doesn't have to always mean the physical death, but we do have to take grief for what it is, not put grief in a box, because there are different ways that we could be grieving, and really face it. After so many times of sweeping that dirt under the rug, you're going to eventually trip over that hump.
Yes.
So broken folk, man.
It's I'm telling you, it's some stories in there that deal with that. There's stories to deal with sexual abuse. That's something that is swept under the rug tremendously.
And to speak on sexual abuse real fast, make sure y'all check out May 11th. We have a Let's Talk About Sex panel coming up, and we're going to be talking about that. We're going to have a few therapists, a few ministers in the building. It's going to be a 2-part, and it's free to the public. I want everybody to come out. Free to the public. We're going to have, like I said, resources there. In our first event, which is May 11th, we're going to be talking about the problem. And in our second event, which will be 3 weeks after that, we'll be giving solutions to the problem, because so many people are affected by sexual abuse. And even well into adulthood, it affects them sexually. And sometimes they don't know. And what motivated me to really do this program, with this panel discussion, was even me thinking about certain things. I always hear about stuff with people, which we've had a conversation for, with people going through molestation. Like, I never was in a experience where I had older people in my family doing XYZ to me, or trying to penetrate me, do something like that. But that wasn't, and I always felt like, oh, well, that never happened to me. So
it doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. But then I started thinking about little small things that did happen with certain family members, and not realizing that was sparking something in me, even as a child. And then I started to realize when I got older that, well, it was a time I always had a problem with initiating sex in relationships. And I realized after having this conversation a month ago that came from, I never had to initiate sex. Even as a child, people were coming to me to initiate sex. So I never knew how to do it, because I felt like it was just going to come. And I realized when I got older, it became a problem in relationships, because they would feel, well, am I not attractive? Like, why am I the one always initiating? And I just be like, I don't know. I just be like you. But then I had to sit down and have a conversation. I had to expose that to me. And a lot of people, it could be something just this. For some people, that might be mild. And I know some people, I know a woman, shout out to her. Hopefully she come to the event. Who she's very, even to this day, at being her age, she's very uncomfortable with people standing behind her. And it all came from the effects of being raped by her father as a child, and
story similar.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Sexual abuse, man, it could tear you up mentally.
When you don't, you have to address it now. It's tough.
Yeah.
And something that we have to get out of the mind frame as a society, because the society is so cutthroat now. It's so black and white. You don't feel, you don't empathize, you don't sympathize for people. Is that whenever someone says, hey, this happened to me, and you look them in their eyes and you say, no, it didn't. Why are you waiting so late to say anything about it?
We see it. We seen it out. We seen it with the celebrities.
We see it a lot.
Yeah.
And then my thing for those people, and even if you are on this show, I'm just going to say this to you. Who in the hell do you think you are? I'm looking at the camera. Who in the hell do you think you are to tell somebody when they can and can't announce when something traumatic happened to them? Check yourself. Now back to us.
Yeah, I feel that.
Those things, it weighs on you. It weighs on that person mentally, physically, emotionally. We can't say when it's the right time to say that this happened to you. It happens to our children more often than not. Our kids are so over sexualized. We can't blame it on the musical artists, because we had the musical artists too. They just weren't recorded. They just weren't on TikTok.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Uncle Luke like the back of my hand. I know Trina, you know now. Yeah. See, I almost slipped into that. Let me bring it back. Yeah. So I know those artists like the back of my, and each and every generation had something that was similar. So they can't just say this generation of music that may have had a classier way of saying it. You can take the song Missy by Sarah Vaughan, and I love Sarah Vaughan. When she says, I get misty holding your hand. Come on.
Yeah. And so, I think that's what it was.
Think about it.
Like you said, classier. We didn't know what was going on, I think now with music, they just put it out there.
It's
Let
that's
you know
why
what
it's
it's
so
gonna be.
cutthroat. It's so
Yeah.
cut. Now, unless you're that Lucille, I think Lucille Bogan when she said that you'll do it till the cows come home.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna let you know, baby, the cows never leave home. So
I think Jill Scott is very, very clever with how she hide it as well too. She's more so of a poet than anything.
Mhm.
Everybody who knows me know I'm a huge Jill
Jill
Scott
Scott.
fan. But after
Let's
listening
take
to her music growing up, I just thought that she was just talking about love. Now listening to her music as an adult, I'm like, majority of your songs are about sex. Yeah.
But you know, a song that everybody we were just singing down when it came out, and a lot of people don't realize it, and the artist even broke out and said it. Poker Face by Lady Gaga.
Hmm.
Go find that interview and she'll break down what that means. He can't read my poker face.
I'm gonna have to go look into that.
And we're
I
gonna
never thought
say,
about
and the
that.
kids were just, everybody was just eating it up. Oh, it's just so,
Yeah.
no, that's not what she meant.
Yeah.
So, but as it relates to sexual abuse and sexual molestation, I wouldn't say that we're an over sexualized society. We're just more open
Mhm.
with who we are and what we like and what we like to do. Um, so please let's not confuse, sexuality for over sexualization because
Mhm.
that's not the same thing. And a lot of people have a tendency to say, "Oh, well, they're exposing the kids to this, baby. You do the exact same thing when you at home.
Mhm.
You just do it in the comfort of your home.
Mhm.
You see people living openly and being who they are. That bothers you. That triggers you.
Mhm.
Like, you're responsible for your triggers as an adult.
Mhm.
No one else is responsible for those. So but going back to the actual abuse aspect, I say that people need to watch their sons just as well as they watch their daughters.
Agreed.
You need to, because men prey on boys too,
Mhm.
women prey on boys too,
Mhm.
and other kids prey on boys
Mhm.
too. And we don't really talk about it because no, that man didn't do that. She wouldn't do that. Okay, well, your 16-year-old son has this 32-year-old woman
Mm.
who's buying him everything he wants.
Mhm.
Oh, she said she loved me just like her son. She spends an awful amount of time with your son. Now, granted, she could be just a friend, but let's look into that relationship.
Mhm.
Let's look at those text messages.
Mhm.
Let's look at the things that have been deleted. Let's look at how many times she's called and what time she's called. You have to do those things because boys are preying on as well.
I agree.
So we have to address that.
Yeah.
We have to have those tough conversations. Nobody wants to have those tough conversations.
Mhm.
They surely don't want to have it with me
Yeah.
because nobody is off limits that's in the house when I work for a certain entity down here, three-letter entity that deals with child welfare. When it came down to certain cases that were dealing with sexual abuse, oh, everybody in the house is getting interviewed. I don't care that they get offended. That didn't bother me because we're going to get to the root of this.
Mhm.
This child clearly has been ripped open.
Mhm.
It's filled with someone's semen,
Mhm.
filled with someone's saliva. Yeah, I'm cutthroat.
Mhm.
Let's address it. And even if you get offended, so this is the reality, and we have to deal with this. We
Mhm.
have to deal with that trauma instead of sweeping it under the rug.
Yeah.
The child would have never said anything. They,
Mhm.
they wouldn't have said anything because you, as the parent, told them not to.
Mhm.
They were talking with their peers, and the other child said, "That's not right,"
Mhm.
and went and told their parents, and boom. Then you had big 6'3" me showing up to your doorstep,
Mhm.
dressed in all black. Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's funny that you say that because a lot of times we see it when it comes to watching boys. I remember growing up, my mom had a friend. Who of course she was an adult, and she used to always call me her little boyfriend, right? I had to be this is
Red
probably about
flag.
98, 99, so I had to be about 7 or 8 years old.
Mhm.
And it got to a point where I actually could remember liking her because when she would call me that, I would feel like it was a legit thing. So I never forget one day she had to end up moving with us. Her and her daughter ended up moving with us for a while before they moved out of town. and she brought a man over.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being as a kid, I was so pissed off with her because this grown woman brought a man over because she had always told me that I was her little boyfriend. Right.
Uh-oh.
So I started speaking to her, and she was eventually was like, "You mad at me because I brought somebody over here? You mad at me?" She's like, "What? He mad at me? He mad at me?" And so I was like, if I know as a child being 7, 8 years old, and a woman is telling me this, and we see that all the time when it comes to the young girls, they're not your homeboy say that's my little girlfriend,
Right.
but you let your homegirl say, "Oh, your little boy, he's so fine, he's so cute," and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times they will push the narrative as, well, we over sexualize black women, but let's talk about the over sexuality of black men.
Yes.
You know, and like you said, we definitely have to watch our young men, our young boys, because they are a target for a lot of people. Don't let them play sports.
Yeah.
Don't let them play
Yeah.
sports, because that opens up a wider spectrum of people who are probably coming after them,
And they're going to prey on them. They're going to seek them out.
Yeah.
If your child has a special talent or skill, I'm telling you now, as someone that grew up playing at that time when I was a little younger, I played about 7 instruments, and I could sing, and I was a drum major. It was ridiculous. Here I was, 16-year-old kid, and there's people that are around my mom's age that were making passes at me, sending messages on Facebook. And I mean, I blocked them at that time, but that was scary. I'm like, oh, I didn't know you could sing like that. Yeah, I've been singing like that since I was in elementary school. You know that. You've been around me that long. Again, I was very direct, very straightforward. And yeah, and I told my mom it was her female friends and her male friend. I'm like, God damn, what is this? I'm getting a message at 2. I remember, excuse me, it was 2:04 in the morning. I'm getting a message. It says an attachment. I click and I'm like, oh, gotcha. I have one of those. I don't get to see yours. Let me go ahead and let me show my mama.
Yeah. That's me. I'm telling mom.
I'm finna tell my mom.
Yeah, that's me. I'm telling mom.
See, I get scared because I know my mama was, and I say this, no disrespect to the people of Louisiana. My mom's nickname was Hurricane Katrina long before Hurricane Katrina.
Really?
Whatever comes in her way, she will destroy.
Yeah.
That's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
I love it though. Please don't get us started, because there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
So I would, and it got to the point where I stopped telling her. Like when I was younger, when people would say things or make passes, because I didn't always look like this. Quite androgynous, honestly. People didn't know if I was a boy or a girl before puberty, and I got all big and stuff. But people, they would make passes. It was so sick.
Yeah,
it was sick. And that goes to show you how many men preyed on young girls, because some of them thought I was a little girl, and they would make passes. They're like, oh, They were talking about cherries. I had no idea what that was. Like, ain't nobody popped that cherry yet. Like, sir, you about 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
I'm 10.
Yeah.
Get the hell out my face. And what is a cherry?
Yeah.
Hey, come over here, you'll find out.
Yeah.
I don't really like cherries as fruit. And here I am thinking they talking about fruit.
Yeah.
And there they are thinking that I'm a little girl.
Yeah.
What the hell? What the hell? And to have women saying, "Oh, you need somebody to pull on that thing." Pull on what? What are we talking about? Are we talking about Black and Miles? Are you trying to give me the smoke?
Yeah.
How dare you? I'm in the DARE program.
That was me for sure.
But y'all, that's the reality. And again, they were thinking that I'm somebody else. They were, and it didn't stop. Until I got older. And hey, I'm telling you now, my mama Hurricane Katrina. So I inherited a lot. I love my dad. I ain't inheriting nothing from him like that. I love your daddy. I know you probably I didn't inherit it. He a pretty boy though.
Yeah.
Don't mess with him now. He a pretty boy. Don't mess with my dad. And I ain't talk about him. Y'all been not saying that about me. I'm saying that about my
So what we got coming from you next?
Ooh. All right. So the Journal of Broken Folk, I said I wanted this to be the only book of its kind
Mhm.
that I do like this, but it's been a lot of people saying we need more.
Mhm.
People were people were already finishing up.
Mhm.
I'm like, yo, you were dedicated. Some of the stories are like, look, I had to stop and pause. I need to connect with you. We need to talk about this. This happened to me, or this is something I know this happened to someone. How can we get help?
Mhm.
Let's do it. But what you can expect to come from me next will definitely be kids books.
Okay.
And I'll show you a cover. My kids series. If y'all didn't know that I love my kids now. I love my kids. Don't mess with my kids. They've been blowing me up. That's why I was looking away because
That's fine.
they've been calling me.
It
You said you were gonna hang out with us spring break. Hang out with y'all folks.
is spring break.
Hang out with y'all folks, please. I already got to see y'all when we come back to school.
It is spring break.
So my nephew, Noah. So this is the cover of his book, Noah and the Magic
Oh,
Wand.
wow.
So I'm working on that. I did the illustrations and animation. AI helped me out a little bit. I have. Let me go to it. So I have about 5 kids books that are geared up to release, and they're going to release almost back to back. And then I'll have a big signing for it. I want to push that more so towards August.
Okay.
When school starts back.
Okay.
So they'll have something to read over the summer. Now my books dealing with the kids, of course, are dealing with the imagination. So these aren't like they're not like this book. I promise it's not like this. But these stories are dealing with literacy, vocabulary enhancement. But I also want to create something in which the child thinks and they gain something from it. So if we're using the imagination to go on magical journeys, let's do it. No, it is not witchcraft. It's okay for your child to read stories to open their imagination. That's where you get your inventors.
Mhm.
That's where you get, your authors. Again, you get your teachers, you get your lawyers, you get all of those people had an imagination at one point. And by you chopping your child off from it and putting them in a box, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So that one's Noah's and the Magic Wand is dealing with the imagination, taking a journey, a vocabulary enhancer. I'd say maybe from around 3rd grade to 5th grade, because I'm laying the words in there.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're gonna get this. We're gonna get these complex words. We're gonna get these definitions. We're gonna get it. And I'm using almost every single word over 1,000 sight words.
Mhm.
I'm not playing.
Mhm.
And that again, that's 3rd through 5th grade. Now for our pre-K to 2nd grade, I have the book Amani Meets the Sun. And that is a little girl who's fascinated with the sun. She wants to know, why is it always there? What's its purpose? And it has a few pictures in there, but again, it has those words that our kids need to use and know how to use correctly. Again, that's pre-K to 2nd. Now, going on up the ladder where we have 6th to 8th grade. Have another one right here. Let me go on to it. Look at me. The anticipation is killing me. And this cover made me tear up writing, like when I created it. I'm like, oh, so beautiful. And the thing about these stories are these kids are kids that I know. I'm using the characters of the kids that I know. And this one is To Catch a Butterfly. That's my niece.
Oh, wow.
And it'll be grades level 6
And you
through 8.
created that cover yourself. Oh, that's what's up.
With the help of a little help from AI, tell them what I want, but I'm very specific. So AI is like, I'm tired of him. So yeah, I'm one of those. This is a vocabulary enhancer.
Yeah.
It helps build the skills and literacy. Our kids should read well over 100 words per minute. Our kids don't, because they're not given, the tools, or they're not given the stories or anything that relates to them. If they read, they're getting called nerds, or they get told that they act white or something like that.
Yeah.
I must say that education and intelligence is not just synonymous with white.
Right.
or with any other race.
I agree.
Anyone can be educated and articulate. So we have to get out of the mind frame of that. And it's hard breaking that with our kids that come from, you know, the the poverty, and they don't have access to those resources. So anything that comes in that doesn't sound or look the way they sound, they see it as a threat, or that's a problem, or you're trying to change me. The only change that I want to see you do is develop.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I don't need you using a first grade word for a sixth grade occasion. I don't need to see that.
Yeah.
It was very fun. What was very fun? I'm that teacher.
Yeah.
What was very fun?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. Okay, so man, I don't know is what you're writing next. Mr. Upshaw, you tripping. Oh, okay, well, pick me up. Do it over. And they know I'll take the paper and I'll ball it up, do it again. Expand your vocabulary. I don't understand that. You have to. And sometimes I have to be tough.
Yeah.
I don't like to be tough because some of them don't understand, but you know, our kids need that. So what's next for me is kids books.
Yeah.
And then after that, I'm doing some horror.
Okay, I'm about to say, yeah, I'm definitely waiting on the horror. So tell us, well, where can we find your book?
Yes, you can find The Journal of Broken Folk on Amazon. So go to Amazon, type in The Journal of Broken Folk. It will pop up as one of the first one. Well, it is the only one that will pop up. So type in The Journal of Broken Folk, or you can type in Quintarries Upshaw, Quintarries. Thank you, Mom, for that very long name.
That's all right.
Upshaw. All right. So type that in.
I love Black people and their creativity with names, man. I love it for real. I definitely love it. And definitely make sure that you keep us in mind next time, especially for the next book release, man.
Yes.
And make sure that you stock us up at the Black Cafe and Bookstore here in Pensacola, Florida. If y'all ever in Pensacola, Florida, make sure y'all check that out. We got some good. I had some. Nicole made something over there that was some little concoction with cappuccino. I don't know what it was, but it was pretty good. But like I said, we have some very, very good books. So many authors, especially Black authors. We got all kind of books, every type of book that you could think about. We have it over there. So make sure y'all got something out, and make sure y'all come check us out. I mean, every weekday. I appreciate you, man, once again for sitting with me this evening. Any message you want to push out before we get out of here?
Oh wow. Look at me being corny. You guys support the book. You don't have to like me. You don't have to like anything I say. Support the book and support the messages. Stand behind each other, and let's promote literacy within the community.
That's it. Yes, man. Stop making people feel just because they like to read, they're less than.
Right.
Okay. We ain't gonna do that. We're gonna stop with that. Again, man, I appreciate y'all for checking in with the G Spot podcast on this phenomenal interview. And you'll definitely see more to come with us. I'm gonna have to bring you over here on one of the serious nights. So we're gonna get another side out of you one of these nights.
All
man.
right.
Make sure y'all check us out each and every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central Time. Shout out to my RWR Live fam, my Real One Radio fam. And if you haven't already, make sure you download the RWR Live 365 app where you can listen to my show and many other good shows every day, all day. And man, we out.